So before we start, that is your formula for standard deviation. And some of you are going to have to do this by hand in university. There's no TI-84 if you take stats, right? So you're going to have to do this by hand. So basically how I break this down is I just do this part right here, the sum of every value minus the mean squared, right? I do that part right here. Okay. So I will say this, if I see you doing this part right here, if I see that you have 7 brackets and you're subtracting and squaring, I'll give you a mark for that today already. Because there's a chance that you might have made a mistake there. I just want to give you a quick hint on how to do these ones faster. I don't know how I showed it to you on the video, but if you go brackets 125 minus 138.14, let's say, and you square it, you figure out what that is, you write it down. Okay, I do this first one, you write it down. Then I copy paste, right? I copy paste. So instead of 125, I'm going to insert 143. Hit enter, you write this number down. Okay, and then you do that for all 7 brackets. You just go back to the previous one, replace the first value, right? So the next one would have been 138, and then you write that number down. Okay, so you do it's much faster that way, and it's good for 2 reasons. Because once you have all these numbers separately, if you want to add them all up, you just go right. You just go up that plus that plus that, right? You just go up 7 times and just copy paste, and then you get your total. Okay, so maybe a little bit of a hint on how to do that faster. So let's say obviously if you had an idea of what to do, this one should be your mark. You should get that. For you to get this one correctly, the sum of the differences squared, I'll give you a mark for that as well. That number has to be exactly like this, okay? If you made a mistake, then you lose this mark today, but I will still give you the mark that follows thereafter. So if I see you taking this number and putting it up here, dividing it by 7, right? So if you get to this point, if you get to that point, I'll give you another mark. Okay. And let's say I'll just give you a mark for any final answer for sure. Right? You get that mark for the final answer. And hopefully, if you used your calculator to find the mean, you should have written down the standard deviation. You can compare and see if you have done that right. So one more time, how many marks? 1, 2, 3, 4. This is excessive, but it makes it easier today. So if you did some sort of work and you get a final answer, you get a mark for that. If I see you taking your sum into the square root and dividing it, you get a mark. If I see that you added 7 different values, you get a mark. And then you get a mark for this setup. So you're the teacher today, you decide what you think you should get. I know sometimes it's like splitting hair, right? Like, is it 3.5, is it 4? I'm not going to argue with you today. If you didn't do it, you should definitely not get marks there. That's you still get, I should say this, you should still get 1 mark if this is filled in. If all you've done is figure out the mean and standard deviation with the calculator, you still get at least 1 mark for this one. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 marks associated with that first question for you there. 5 marks. Then the next part here, I will give you 1 mark for determining the midpoints and them being correct. Okay? And then I'll give you 1 mark for having your mean and the standard deviation. And obviously if you made a mistake here, then this is going to be wrong. Okay? So what you do in that case, you take off a mark for the midpoints if they're wrong, but you still get the mark here. So what I do is step, right? You've seen me do that a lot, which means this is not what I'm looking for. Your answer is wrong, but I'm basing it on what you've done before. And you get another mark for class size. Class size would be your n value, okay? There's 30, we're considering 30 students here, and so that's what we're talking about there. So you get a mark for 30 as well. So 3 marks for question 2, 5 marks for question 1. That gives us a total of 8. Okay, so you can have somewhere on that piece of paper, name and last name and total out of 8.